Why you got Sack and Juvie tatted on you? They not dead. I wouldn't tat nobody on me that's not dead. 2 days after that, these boys dead.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
YNW Mel's whole situation just flipped in a way nobody saw coming, and the streets are buzzing like crazy right now. A close homie finally let loose that late-night murder clip everybody thought would stay buried forever. And once it hit the internet, everything got shaken up. This wasn't some small leak. This was the type of drop that makes people stop whatever they were doing just to replay it over and over. What came out wasn't some grainy phone video of the actual shooting, but something even heavier. Straight interrogation footage, raw as it gets.
Dead and gone. I already know what y'all here for.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
Did you grow up with them?
Every last one of them.
And the energy in that room was so tense it felt like the walls were sweating, because Jacoby Mills, a dude who was right there the whole night, starts talking in a way nobody expected. We weren't telling rumors. We weren't saying guessing. He was speaking as somebody who rode in the red car that followed the Jeep minutes before things went bad. This is why the streets can't stop talking. Mills wasn't some random outsider. He was part of the same circle, someone who knew how these guys moved and who saw the whole night unfold in real time. Every word he said in that room felt like a direct hit, because finally someone from the inside was giving details the public never heard before. And now people are arguing non-stop trying to figure out what's real and what's not. To really understand why this leak is blowing up, you've got to toggle back to the start, because this case didn't just pop up last week. It's been dragging the rap world into endless debates for more than 6 years straight. It all traces back to October 26, 2018, a night that changed everything for the YNW crew. That was the day to young artists Anthony YNW Sack Chaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie. Thomas Jr. were found lifeless inside a Jeep at Memorial Hospital Miramar, and the story pushed out at the time made the whole situation even more confusing. YNW Melly, real name Jamel Demons, wasn't some distant figure watching from the sidelines. He was one of their closest people. They were all part of the same movement, the same Florida rap wave, trying to build something real from the ground up, acting like brothers who plan to rise together. That's what made the whole situation hit so hard. The idea that something this dark could happen inside a circle that looked unbreakable from the outside. At first, the streets were told that Cortland YNW Bortland Henry rushed the victims to the hospital after a random drive-by shooting. It sounded like the usual tragedy that hits young artists trying to escape the streets, something that sadly happens way too often. But once detectives started digging deeper, everything flipped fast, and the original story cracked open like it was made of paper. The forensic work changed the whole angle instantly. Instead of bullets coming from outside the Jeep, like a typical drive-by, the autopsy revealed that Sack Chaser and Juvie were hit from inside the vehicle. Then investigators broke down the bullet paths. What they found made the internet explode. The shots lined up with the exact seat Melly was said to be sitting in that night. And this is the part that had people losing their minds. The details weren't small. They were shaking up the entire foundation of the case. The whole situation went from a sad tragedy to a massive question mark that has been keeping the streets arguing non-stop. The prosecution's whole storyline kicks off around 1 a.m. on October 26, 2018, when 8 young men slid into New Era recording studio in Fort Lauderdale to cook up music, which is nothing out of the ordinary for artists living that grind life. Studios stay alive at night with people trying to make their breakthrough. But according to this leaked footage, something in that room felt wrong from the moment they walked in. Mills explains that the vibe wasn't regular. Everybody was acting strange, tense, and out of character, like people were carrying quiet problems they didn't want to say out loud. Sack Chaser kept snapping at people, even tapping folks in the head for nodding off. Instead of a productive session, things just kept getting worse. The music wasn't hitting, nobody was focused, and by 3:19 a.m., the whole group decided to pack it up and head out because the energy was too toxic to create anything real. That's when the timeline starts moving into dangerous territory. They split into 2 separate cars, for piling into the red Mitsubishi SUV with Trivian Glass Dontavius, Withers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis, while the other 4 hopped inside a gray Jeep Cherokee with Cortland Henry behind the wheel, Anthony Williams up front, Christopher Thomas in the back, and Jamel Demons YNW Melly taking the rear driver's side seat. 2 cars, same crew, same route home, nothing suspicious on the surface. Surveillance cameras caught both vehicles driving the same path at first, down I-95 south toward 595. Sliding across to I-75 south, then toward Miramar Parkway, like a regular late-night ride home. Everything looks smooth, just tired men heading back after a long studio night, until everything suddenly switched directions with a twist nobody can explain. At a 180th Avenue, the red Mitsubishi kept going south and was recorded rolling through the Sunset Lakes. Guard gate at 3:50 a.m., the same gated community where most of them stayed. But the gray Jeep, it never rolled through those gates, never popped up on that same camera, never followed the group home. Instead, according to cell phone data, it went north, and that's when the story steps into chilling territory. The Jeep moved north along 180th, then turned onto Pines Boulevard heading deep west toward the edge of the Everglades, a pitch-black empty stretch of land where nobody would randomly show up in the middle of the night. It's one of those spots where even streetlights don't bother to shine, and the silence hits your skin. From there, the Jeep went south on US 27, then turned onto Pembroke Road, a dead-end route leading straight to a trash facility hidden in the dark. Cell data pinpoints the Jeep in that isolated spot at exactly 4:02 a.m., the moment investigators say the killings happened. That location alone had the internet arguing because it's the kind of place where nobody can hear anything, nobody can witness anything, and nobody can stop whatever's about to go down.
He pulled that gun on me.
Saying Kobe pulled a gun on her?
Yep, 5:30 that morning. She called out of work and she called. Wait, stop.
And you really
stop.
can't even tell Courtney. I know what.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
That's what she told Mariah too, because that's what Mariah told me. Jamie just called me at 8 and told me.
Melly called her at like 5:30 that morning.
But the details get even wilder, the type of twist that makes this case so shocking. When police searched every inch of Miramar Parkway, the road where the drive-by supposedly took place, they found absolutely nothing. No shell casings, no broken glass, no marks, not even the tiniest trace that bullets were fired there. It looked untouched, like nothing had happened at all. Meanwhile, the medical examiner's statements pushed the story into an even darker direction. When the drive-by was allegedly staged at 4:02 a.m., both victims were already gone. Their fatal injuries happened inside the Jeep. Any extra bullet wounds that made the outside look like a drive-by were added after they had already passed away, meaning those shots were part of a staged scene. Think about how heavy that is for a moment. According to the prosecution, Melly and Bortland didn't just harm their own people. They planned out a whole cover story, drove with lifeless bodies in the vehicle, and fired shots from outside to make it look random. That's not just emotional chaos or a fight gone left. That's calculated, cold planning that shocked both the streets and social media. But the prosecution didn't stop at the phone data or the bullet paths. They kept stacking more and more pieces to paint their version of the truth. They brought out Instagram DMIs where someone straight up asked Melly about the situation, and according to them, he replied, "I did that." That one line spread across the internet like wildfire because people couldn't believe something that bold would be typed out at all. They also pushed the angle that Melly was tied to the G-Shine blood set, claiming that just 2 days before the incident, he was learning the loyalty oath connected to the group. Prosecutors used that to build a narrative of deeper ties and motives, trying to show that the music life wasn't the only world he was involved in. Whether you believe it or not, they presented it like it was part of a bigger picture. The first trial collapsed into a mistrial back in July 2023, after the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. Since then, the retrial has been pushed back multiple times, stacked with delays and endless legal battles, and now it's locked in for January 2027. Through all this, Melly has been sitting behind bars for over 6 years without a conviction. Bortland decided to take a plea deal in October 2025 on accessory charges.
The remix of Melly song, listen to that bitch. What he said, bust a nigga head, something.
That choice alone split the fanbase because people instantly started wondering why he folded his part of the case. This is exactly why the leaked interrogation footage has shaken the whole internet, because it features Jacoby Mills, also known as Cortez or TZ. Someone who wasn't just connected to the crew, but was riding in the red car that same night. Mills wasn't some outsider making guesses. He was family to Bortland, described as his blood cousin, and he was close enough to know the atmosphere and movements of everyone involved without being directly inside the Jeep. That kind of position gives his voice a unique weight. These interrogation tapes were filmed in January 2019, only months after everything happened, and way before the public knew any of the details. That timing matters because Mills was mentioning specific things that didn't hit the internet until years later, which makes his words feel even more intense and impossible to brush off.
If we done jumped in front of them, it's already too late. We can't try to pull over and get back behind them.
People are calling it eerie because the footage shows him calmly, describing things that investigators later confirmed through completely different methods. What's making people focus even harder is the timing of the leak. This footage pops up in November 2025, right as lawyers begin preparing for the retrial. It's raised all kinds of questions about motive, strategy, and whether the leak was accidental or purposely placed into the public eye. Some are saying it's connected to ongoing civil lawsuits around the case. Others think it's part of the discovery process. While some believe someone behind the scenes wanted this out now for reasons nobody has figured out yet. Meanwhile, social media is going crazy, from big names like DJ Kamix breaking it down on live streams to random users posting theories every 5 minutes. The whole hip-hop world is split down the middle. Some people think this leak is the final piece that proves Melly is guilty, while others are calling Mills a traitor and accusing him of stepping over the loyalty line to save himself. It's become one of the most heated debates in rap culture right now.
I yell downstairs, I say, AD, see a Sack and Melly in the room. He already sleep in the Sack room. He had ran to the stairway because he heard me talking crazy, like, man, what the f going on? He looking lost, like, what's going on, bro? I say, man, go see a Sack in his room, bro.
What makes this even more complicated is that Mills keeps saying in the video that he's not a snitch, repeating that he's just trying to help his friends and tell the truth. But the details he shares are so deep and so damaging that people don't know what to believe anymore. Some hear his words and think he's telling everything, while others think he's being cornered. Whatever the truth is, he's dropping information that feels like the most intense confession the hip-hop world has ever seen. Things are about to get intense because this part hits way harder than anything we covered before. If you thought earlier details were shocking, this interrogation segment takes everything to another level.
Like DeAndre told somebody, everything Melly get, I get half.
Me do.
You hear that? He said he do. He just said Juvie and DeAndre, Sack Chaser, are YNW, and Sack Chaser is supposed to get half of everything.
Watching Jacoby Mills speak in that room feels like you rehearing someone unload years of secrets in real time. And the whole internet is calling it one of the wildest leaks hip-hop's ever seen. Mills doesn't hold back. He basically delivers a full blueprint of what allegedly happened that night, breaking it down in a way that makes the room feel colder with every sentence. The way he describes the studio session minute by minute is almost eerie, because from the start, he makes it clear something was completely off. You can hear it in his voice, the way he keeps circling back to that strange energy. According to Mills, they pulled up to New Era around midnight, expecting the usual late-night grind.
So, she just took your clothes?
I mean, no, she got everybody clothes. Everybody clothes that was in there.
Why? My mind is telling me there's some, hiding of evidence type shit going on.
But instead, everybody was drained, nodding off, barely able to stay focused. And for guys paying for studio time, that's not normal at all when you're paying real money. You don't waste it unless something heavy is sitting in the air. It's like the whole session was pushed forward by a force nobody wanted to acknowledge. That's when Mills says Sack Chaser started acting extremely aggressive, slapping people for dozing off and talking like he was running the whole camp. In street environments, that type of bold disrespect usually means tempers are building and tensions are getting ready to explode. Mills calls him crazy and says he had a history of strong behavior, which lines up with whispers that money issues and leadership debates were bubbling under the surface for a long time. And this leads straight into one of the biggest rumors that has been floating around forever, the money disputes. According to what's been said for years, and what Mills indirectly backs up, Sack Chaser believed he was basically the CEO of YNW and deserved half of anything Melly earned. That kind of claim creates pressure instantly, especially when big money is involved and multiple people think they're the ones running the movement. Then Mills moves into the vehicle setup, and the way he explains it hits different because every seat matters. He confirms the Jeep lineup exactly. Bortland driving, Sack Chaser in the front passenger seat, Melly behind the driver, and Juvie behind Sack Chaser. Meanwhile, Mills rode in the red car, Tay behind the wheel, Fetty up front, and Adrian Davis in the back. The exact formation makes the whole thing feel like pieces on a board being arranged before a critical moment. But the detail that gives people shivers is when Mills says he originally tried to get into the Jeep, but something stopped him. He says he felt divinely prevented, like something told him to stay away. And whether you see that as spiritual protection or pure street instinct, it makes the whole story feel even more eerie. The idea that he felt a pull away from that Jeep is haunting. Then he adds another heavy detail before leaving the studio. Juvie gathered weapons and gear, like he was preparing for something bigger than a simple ride home. And Mills mentions that Melly was carrying a brown satchel that supposedly held a gun, which adds another layer to the tension everyone felt but didn't fully understand. This footage isn't just a leak, it's a full breakdown of a night that changed everything. And hearing it from someone who was right there makes every word sound explosive. Most of the crew went inside and knocked out instantly. But around 4 a.m., Mills gets a phone call that could freeze anyone in their tracks. His mother tells him someone called her saying, "Y'all all dead?" Imagine being half asleep and hearing your mom say something like that. That's not regular drama. That's pressure from a whole different world. When threats start reaching family members, it means somebody behind the scenes is pushing buttons that go beyond music or business. Right after that, Mills says he sees multiple missed calls from Melly, non-stop back-to-back calls. And even 17 calls to Drew, the group's videographer. When someone is blowing up phones like that in the middle of the night, it always means something major just went down. It's the type of energy where you instantly know the night just took a dark turn. Then comes the most damaging moment in Mills' entire story, the FaceTime call. Mills says Melly called him after everything happened, and what he saw on that screen is what made him believe something was deeply wrong. According to Mills, Melly looked like he was pretending to cry, no tears, no real emotion, just a performance to make it seem like he was heartbroken over his friends. Hearing that from someone who knew him personally is what's sparking major debates across the internet. In street life, being able to act calm or emotional after something heavy is not a regular trait. It's something people associate with someone who can switch personalities when they need to. If what Mills is saying is true, he's describing someone who could hurt people close to him and then immediately flip his emotions like he's on camera. That's the type of detail that's making this footage go viral everywhere. Mills even goes deeper by describing how Melly looked later when he pulled up to Frito Banga's house. He says Melly had changed into a tank top and gym shorts, which sounds like someone who swapped clothes fast, something people do when they need to get rid of items connected to a crime. And what makes this detail even heavier is that other witnesses from the trial also mentioned Melly changing clothes that same morning. But this situation gets even more intense the next day. Mills says the crew was searching through nearby woods and actually found a blood-soaked .40 caliber handgun, and he claims he held it in his hands before a manager quickly took it away. That is the type of detail that sends chills through people because the prosecution has always said the murder weapon was never found. Mills also mentions that they were searching for a second weapon, something he describes as a Tech, probably a Tech 9, but they never recovered it. If his account is accurate, it means guns were discovered and then removed before law enforcement could ever get to them. That would explain why the murder weapons have been missing all these years, and why investigators never located them despite their massive search efforts. Throughout everything, Mills keeps repeating that Bortlen wasn't built for that type of violence, and wasn't the kind of person who would take part in something that extreme. He says Bortlen didn't live that lifestyle and wasn't capable of that level of cold behavior, which lines up with why Bortlen ended up taking a plea deal for accessory charges instead of facing the same accusations as Melly. But Mills doesn't stop at just describing what happened. He starts hinting at why it happened, and that's where things turn into pure controversy. He talks about the entire situation feeling like a setup, and compares it to other cases people still argue about today, including the situation involving King Von. And then he drops the line that's sending the whole rap world into meltdown. He starts questioning what NBA Youngboy might have known about the incident. That one detail turned social media upside down because nobody expected Mills to even mention Youngboy's name in this context. The second he brought it up, the internet caught fire, creating theories that haven't slowed down since that footage leaked. Mills goes even deeper when he brings up NBA Youngboy, asking how Youngboy knew so many details about what happened, pointing to old social media posts and this rumored remix track that supposedly included hidden references to the murders. Even though no searchable evidence of that remix exists, and no investigators have ever linked Youngboy to the situation, the fact that Mills mentioned his name at all sent shockwaves through the entire culture. The streets already knew that their circles weren't exactly friendly. And hearing Mills talk about past tensions between the two crews added even more heat to the speculation. In hip-hop, these kinds of rivalries can spark huge problems, especially when people feel disrespected or blindsided. And that's why this part of Mills' statement blew up instantly across social media. What really grabs the internet's attention, though, is how many details Mills shared way back in 2019 that later turned out to be accurate. Mills talked about Juvie's thumb being shot off long before the public ever knew that detail didn't get confirmed until lawyer John Phillips exposed autopsy photos in 2025. Hearing someone describe something years early that later matches official records makes people look at Mills differently. He also described the exact spot where Melly supposedly got picked up by Frito Bang, and that location perfectly lines up with cell phone data that didn't surface until the courtroom sessions. When someone gives a story long before the evidence is publicly available, it makes their version of events sound a lot more believable. And that's why so many people are treating this interrogation footage like a blueprint.
Oh.
But even with all these exact details, Mills keeps repeating in the footage that he's not a snitch. He's simply trying to protect the people he cares about. He even says he's afraid for his family because he thinks someone might hurt them for him talking to law enforcement. That level of fear shows how deep this situation goes and how many different people might be attached to this story behind the scenes. Meanwhile, online reactions to the leaked videos have been pure chaos. Huge voices like DJ Akamix broke the footage down frame by frame, and fans on Reddit, Twitter, and every other platform are locked in heated debates about whether Mills is a credible witness or just someone trying to save his own situation. The arguments get louder every day, with people picking sides like it's a full-blown cultural battle. The most fascinating part is how this leak ties into the bigger conversation about loyalty, betrayal, and the unwritten code that exists in both the streets and hip-hop. In those worlds, there's a rule: you don't talk to police no matter what. But when your close friends lose their lives and you think someone inside your own circle played a part in it, those rules start twisting fast. The leak forces everybody watching to face an uncomfortable question: is staying silent loyalty, or is telling the truth loyalty? That's the line this case keeps walking, and it's why people can't stop analyzing every second of Mills's footage. It's the kind of situation where emotions, survival, fear, and old friendship lines all collide at once. And now we reach the part where the energy hits maximum intensity. The fallout from these videos is exploding across the culture, shifting conversations in music, the streets, and social media spaces everywhere. Rap fans, bloggers, artists, and commentators are breaking this down like it is the biggest controversy hip-hop has seen in years. This story touches everything: loyalty, money, power, hidden alliances, unspoken rivalries, and the heavy consequences that come when all those pieces crash together. The leak didn't just stirred things up, it changed the entire tone of the situation moving forward, leaving people questioning who they trust, what they believe, and how deep this whole situation really goes. We way past analyzing a single murder case. This leak is shaking up conversations about loyalty, street codes, snitching, and even how the music industry moves behind the curtains. Mills's revelations cracked open layers of hip-hop culture that people usually whisper about quietly. But now the whole world is seeing it happen in real time. The legal side of this is a complete storm, because the footage dropped right as Melly's team is preparing for the next trial. That timing feels way too close to be random, and even attorneys online are saying the same thing. Even if the footage doesn't get admitted because of authentication problems or hearsay issues, the damage is already done. Millions of people watched it, shared it, and formed opinions off it. And now the big problem. How do you find 12 unbiased jurors when half the internet has seen? Mills breaking down exactly what he believes happened that night. Defense lawyers are almost guaranteed to push motions to suppress anything related to the leak. And they'll probably request a change of venue because trying to seat a neutral jury after this viral madness is basically impossible. But this is where everything gets even more strategic. Some people think these leaks aren't intended at the criminal trial at all. They might be connected to the civil wrongful death lawsuits, where the rules for evidence are way looser. In civil court, hearsay doesn't hit the same way. The burden of proof is lighter, which means the leaked interrogation could be more influential there. And the fact that Frito Bang has been pulled into depositions for the civil case shows just how wide this whole situation is spreading. He wasn't with them during the incident. But since Mills mentioned Melly going to his house afterward, his name is now caught inside the legal mix. Even 50 Cent reacted to the leak, proving this case continues, grabbing attention across all levels of hip-hop. And now we step into the street politics, the part of the story that twisting people's heads. The leaked audio of Sackchaser's family talking the morning after the murders reveals they had deep inside knowledge about tensions inside the YNW circle. They were discussing arguments about money, record deals, what they called a devil's deal, saying Sackchaser was trying to stop Melly from signing something that he believed would ruin everything. For years, quiet rumors floated around that the motive wasn't gang beef, it was money and control. When you have a record deal worth hundreds of thousands and two people arguing over who should get half, that situation can turn dangerous fast. That's the kind of dispute that makes people take extreme actions when emotions and pride collide. The family audio also hints at more suspicious movements the morning after the murders, with allegations that Melly's mother rented a storage unit early that day to move belongings and possibly hide items. Hearing people speculate about behind-the-scenes movements like that added a whole new layer of mystery to the timeline. And the fact Melly's mom reportedly called out of work at 5:30 a.m. makes people wonder what she might have known before the news broke publicly. Then comes the NBA YoungBoy angle, and this part keeps fueling endless theories online. Mills asked how young boys seem to know so much about the situation, pointing at old posts and this alleged remix he referenced in the interrogation. Even though no proof of the remix has surfaced, the mention alone sent the internet spiraling, especially since there were reports of previous run-ins between the two crews. Even without concrete links, just the fact YoungBoy's name entered the conversation shows how layered the politics around this case really are. It paints a picture of multiple circles, multiple loyalties, and connections that reach deeper than the public ever realized. The fact that YoungBoy's name even gets mentioned in connection with this situation shows how tangled and interconnected the hip-hop world truly is. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Alliances, old street run-ins, quiet feuds, and behind-the-scenes politics all tie together in ways the public rarely sees. One comment, one track, or one social media post can spark conversations that reach far deeper than just the music. But now we get to the biggest tension point: the accusations that Mills is a snitch. Throughout the entire interrogation, Mills keeps repeating that he's not snitching and insists that he's only trying to help the people he cares about. But the reaction from the internet has been harsh, with social media calling him out constantly for cooperating with detectives in any form. This situation exposes a major conflict inside hip-hop culture. What happens when the no snitching rule collides with someone wanting answers for their friends who lost their lives? Mills was stuck between two impossible choices: stay silent and risk the killers walking free, or speak up and get labeled forever as someone who broke the street code. Either choice puts him in danger, and that's what makes this so intense to watch. The most chilling part is when Mills admits he's afraid his family could be targeted for him talking to law enforcement. That fear shows the reality behind these conversations. Snitching isn't just a word people use online. It carries real danger in certain environments. In moments like this, survival becomes a bigger question than loyalty, and it reveals the darker side of street culture that people rarely discuss openly. This case is also exposing some uncomfortable truths about the music industry and the street world it is connected to. The financial disagreements that allegedly sparked the violence reflect bigger issues about how sudden money and fame can tear apart friendships and even entire families. When everyone is chasing success and a huge check hits the table, loyalty gets tested in ways people don't expect. Some critics argue that cases like this show how black artists get watched harder by police, while others say the forensic evidence is too detailed to ignore. And the fact that Melly has been sitting behind bars for more than 6 years without a conviction raises serious questions about due process. Meanwhile, supporters of the prosecution think the severity of the claims justifies how long the legal process is dragging on. With the retrial scheduled for January 2027, the pressure surrounding this case is at a breaking point. The state of Florida is still pursuing the death penalty, and legal experts believe a plea deal is extremely unlikely unless it involves life in prison. Bortland taking a plea deal and possibly being positioned to testify only adds more fire to the situation. And now the leaked interrogation from Mills is everywhere, making the pressure on Melly's defense team feel almost impossible to escape. But beyond the legal fight and the online debates, these revelations force people to remember the real human cost of that night. Mills describes Juvie as someone who didn't even want the rap lifestyle anymore, painting him as a young man trying to step away from the chaos, not dive deeper into it. And his description of how complicated the relationships inside the group were makes the story even more heartbreaking. Because these weren't strangers, these were people who trusted each other. And the viral spread of this interrogation footage raises a heavy question in the social media era. Should interrogation tapes even be turned into public entertainment? When millions watch leaked footage before a trial even starts, it opens up questions about fairness, justice, and whether defendants can get a real chance at a neutral trial. Balancing public curiosity with legal rights becomes a huge challenge when the internet is involved. These questions stretch way beyond this single case, because the ripples from these leaked tapes are shaking up conversations the whole culture has avoided for years. As everybody sits waiting for the retrial to finally start, one thing is crystal clear. These interrogation videos guaranteed that the YNW Melly situation will go down as one of the most closely watched trials in hip-hop history. The real truth about what happened on October 26, 2018 might be way more layered than anyone expected, but Mills' detailed breakdown has given the world the closest thing to an insider map of that night we've ever seen. His story doesn't sound like gossip. It sounds like someone replaying the events in his mind step by step. And that's why people can't stop talking about it. Whether these leaked tapes help prosecutors expose new layers nobody saw coming, or get tossed out altogether, is something nobody can predict yet. But what's already obvious is that this case cracked open deep issues inside hip-hop surrounding loyalty, money, violence, and justice, the type of tensions that don't disappear after a verdict gets read. The streets are watching every update like it's a TV series. The legal teams are gearing up for a courtroom battle unlike anything we've seen, and the entire culture is still trying to figure out what these leaks truly mean. One thing's for sure, this story is far from finished, and the energy around it is only getting stronger with every new detail that surfaces. No matter how the retrial plays out, the echoes from these leaked videos will be felt long after the final decision is made. People will be debating this case, these relationships, and these choices for years because it exposed a level of emotion, betrayal, and pressure that most fans never see up close. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you lock in, because there are way more wild stories coming from courtroom chaos. Hidden industry conflicts, street legends, secret alliances, and the untold truth behind the most shocking moments in hip-hop history. New deep dives drop constantly, so stick around and check out the next story.